What's going on YouTube and Diablo 4 fans? It's Lanfear here from Lanfear's Diablo 4. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I just wanted to give you some of my initial impressions and what I thought about the server slam, as well as all the new content and developer streams that have come out on Diablo 4. So I will just be giving you a bit of my experience with the game so far and what has been said and told to us, and this may just give you a better idea and paint a better picture of what you can expect when diving into Diablo 4. First off, I need to comment on the world that has been created by the Diablo 4 developers and what Sanctuary looks like now. And wow, I must say I am super impressed. So it has a very distraught, mysterious and dark feeling about it, which I think perfectly suits the narrative of Diablo and captures the essence of what a Diablo game should look like and feel like. The new open world experience also works very well, and the layout of the maps feel like you're adventuring through an eerie, dangerous yet breathtaking landscape. The dungeons have also got this really sort of dark, gruesome and gory-like aesthetic to them, which I think creates the perfect canvas for you to paint with the blood of demons and hellspawn as you slay your way through these dungeons. So on that note, I think definitely well done to Blizzard for creating this atmosphere within the game. It really gives that good dark Diablo feel to it. And running alongside the world that's been created, I think the bestiary and the demons and monsters that you face with your hero in Diablo 4 are modeled and displayed fantastically. It really is the perfect accompaniment to the world in which you play the game, and the monsters look so scary, demonic, evil and gruesome, and it matches their setting really well. And just lastly on the world, I think that it's a big step up from the previous Diablo games, and it's just simply visually superb. So next up, and arguably the most important part of Diablo 4 as a game, are the classes that you can choose to champion in the game. And a lot of work has gone into the classes, and I definitely think that it shows in what has come out and what we've been able to see of the game so far. Keeping the classes familiar with some subtle changes here and there, I think has been a really successful approach to Diablo 4, in my opinion at least. And the Barbarian, Rogue, Necromancer, Druid and Sorcerer should all be familiar faces to Diablo fans and a welcome sight when looking and booting up the game for the first time. On the aesthetic front, being able to change how your character looks is a must for a game like this, especially in this day and age, and it works really well, I think, especially in the unique ways that you can customize your character, and you can even make them look like yourself or something that you fantasized over. It's just a really cool feature for the game, and the way that this is integrated into the storyline in some of the cutscenes is also really cool. More important than the aesthetics is how the characters feel when playing and how their skills and builds work. And I'm a huge fan of the new skill tree progression and the seemingly endless ways that you can build your character exactly how you want, and in many varying and viable builds as well. I think there's a lot of diversity with the characters and the skills, and this paired with the Paragon system as well as the legendary aspects, I think this furthers the customization, in addition to the class specific variances such as the sorcerer's enchantment features. So you really do get a lot of varying builds and diversity in the game, and I think that is a fantastic addition to the new Diablo title. So the classes feel great to play. I think they feel really fluid and dynamic and very interactive and smooth. They integrate well into the world that's been created, and I'm super pleased and happy with how the game is feeling in this regard. And adding awesome gear with game-breaking unique item affixes tell the story of what I imagine to be a very diverse endgame that will have a lot of potential to play how you want and build your characters the way you want. And I just really can't wait to jump into the game, and especially the end game, and just get into these characters and really dig out what are the best builds for them. I'm really excited for that. So let's talk about items, and I think that the items in Diablo 4 have been designed in a way that is familiar to returning players, but also has enough new elements to make the game exciting and a new experience as well. So the tiers for items will range from common to magic to rare to legendary and then unique, and with sacred, ancestral and mythical versions of these in the endgame. One of the ways that items differ to previous Diablo titles is which specific stat can roll on each specific piece of gear. For instance, healing potion or vial specific stats on your pants, ranks for skill stats on gloves, or mobility skill ranks on boots. And these specific stats found on these items for specific slots, i.e. head, chest, pants, boots, etc., add another dimension to how you gear your character and the choices you need to make when upgrading these items. There will be some returning unique and legendary items from previous titles such as Wind Force or Harlequin Crest Shaco, the Grandfather, some of those classic items that we love, and this adds a fantastic nostalgic feel to the items that we can find in Diablo 4 now. But more importantly, I'm super excited to see the plethora of new items that have been added to the game. Another awesome addition is using the occultist NPC in town to extract the legendary powers off of an item and being able to imprint and socket it into another item. Although in doing this, you will be erasing that item's current legendary power. This gives the player endless ways in customizing what item has what legendary power and where it is placed on your character in what gear slot. So similar to Diablo 3, legendary and unique items will play a huge role in dictating and directing how you build your character. And personally, I think it's awesome when you find a super GG hard to find item and then build your character and your build around it. So I think that's an awesome addition to the game. Furthering the mentioned items, there is an extensive crafting system in the game that utilizes materials found and extracted, and the in-town NPCs found in the major cities. The blacksmith can upgrade your weapons and armor as well as salvage and repair items. The jeweler can upgrade your jewelry and their stats. The newly added alchemist NPC can craft you useful elixirs and upgrade your healing vial, while the occultist seems like the NPC who will be your best friend in town, and they will extract and imprint these mentioned legendary powers into aspects, and they will also be enchanting your items and improving on their rolls, as well as crafting sigils which will allow you to access nightmare dungeons in the endgame. There's also gambling through a currency called obols, which I'm sure a lot of people will appreciate as well. All in all, items have always been a cornerstone of the Diablo titles, and I think this game just expands and furthers that experience, which is great. So touching on the storyline and the narrative of Diablo 4, I think that the developers have really put a big focus and a lot of energy on this, and it shows in the world and its surroundings, as well as the lore and the items and the bestiary, and it's a very rich and in-depth storyline to the game, and I think that just creates this atmosphere and setting that really sets the game apart from others. And I think it's also a storyline that we know and love, and it is just taken further and develops further with this new title. So, set 15 years after Malthael erased half of humanity, the story picks up on a struggling and desperate world within Sanctuary. Leaving your specific character's backstory unanswered, it allows you to fill in the blanks and use your imagination where you fit in within this turmoil. We get to revisit characters known from the past storyline in Diablo, and we also get to meet and discover many new colorful characters as we progress through the game. The storyline really enriches the dark new world that the Diablo 4 devs have created, and it adds a feeling of despair and heading towards unavoidable conflict and war, and the peril that is constantly looming over Sanctuary. I'm really looking forward to where the storyline is going to take us in Diablo 4, as well as how they intertwine our character's fate in with that of Sanctuary's. As cool as the storyline for Diablo 4 is, I think for many players, myself included, the game really begins where the storyline ends and the end game starts. And with that being said, last but not least, let's jump into the end game of Diablo 4. So, while I haven't been able to test and dive into this personally, we have been provided a bit of an insight into what the end game will hold for us through the developer live streams and the lucky few who have been given the privilege to experience and test it. It is quite a complex sounding system, so please bear with me as I try to explain it and also try to simplify it a bit. So to begin, the game will have 4 difficulty tiers, 2 of which are available at the beginning as you play through the storyline, these tiers being Adventurer and Veteran. And once you have completed the storyline, you will be able to test yourself against the first of 2 capstone dungeons at around level 45 to 50. So this dungeon is used as a skill and gear check to make sure you are ready to unlock the next world tier upon completion of this dungeon. So technically speaking, endgame starts at around level 50 after completing the first capstone dungeon, which would imply that leveling from there on would get progressively more difficult and take quite some time to reach the max level of 100. I don't think it's going to be a quick sprint from 50 to 100. I think there's going to be a lot of play to get your experience up to max level of 100. So upon unlocking the next world tier, which is world tier 3, you'll be able to enter nightmare dungeons, which are essentially much more difficult dungeons with harder monsters and better drop rates, and you will also unlock sacred and ancestral item drops. So nightmare sigils are used to open up nightmare dungeons and can be found from the Tree of Whisper quote-unquote bounties or missions, so to speak, and they can also be broken down and recrafted into new nightmare dungeons through the occultist NPC in town. And these nightmare dungeons will be tiered in difficulty, and one of the main drops you will be looking for are powerful glyphs which you can insert into your Paragon board. And that's another part of the end game that I think is going to be really diverse and important, is the Paragon board or the Paragon skill tree that you'll follow. This will really complete builds and flesh them out and make them into really powerful sources for your character. So with World Tier 3 unlocked, you'll also experience an endgame event called Hulltide. And Hulltide is basically an event that will take over a specific area of the map for an hour with a 1 hour on, 1 hour off rotation, and this will change locations as the rotation changes. So Hulltide will offer strong opponents and wandering bosses within these areas, as well as the ability to target specific drops for specific item slots through the use of a Hultide specific material called cinders. So basically you will find various chests across these Hultide areas with specific slot items inside that you can spend these cinders on. So once you have farmed a bit more gear and leveled up and got yourself a bit stronger, and you are roughly around level 70 to 75, you will then be able to take on the next second and last capstone dungeon, which will then grant you access to World Tier 4. And simply put, World Tier 4 will have the most difficult monsters and the most difficult content, as well as the best drops and best drop rates. So simply put, this is where you'll be able to find the best loot and unique items. There's also a system using the Tree of Whispers, which is unlocked towards the end of the storyline, which will provide challenges and rewards almost like a quote-unquote bounty or mission or quest system. And these will also reward you with nightmare sigils to open nightmare dungeons. Another in-game feature would be the Fields of Hatred, which is a specific PvP area of the game, so that's player versus player. And here you will farm materials to trade for cosmetic items, as well as the general reward of feeling victory and power over your fellow Diablo 4 players. Last but not least, there's also the world boss feature that is part of the endgame of Diablo 4. These world bosses will be some of the most powerful enemies in Diablo 4, and they will often require a team of 10 or more heroes to take them down, and they will spawn in specific areas throughout the world on a timed schedule. And I really like the idea of these difficult bosses that require cooperative team style play to overcome them, and I think they will be a very welcome addition to the game. So wrapping up my thoughts on Diablo 4 and what I've been able to play and see so far, and generally I think the game is shaping up to be brilliant. I think there's going to be a lot of diversity and ways that you can build your character through the skill tree, the new items, as well as the new Paragon board system, as well as interchanging these legendary aspects and affixes. So I think overall just the diversity that the game will bring, as well as the new and different challenges in endgame, I think there's just a whole new level to what Diablo as a title offers. And me personally, I love theory crafting and figuring out ways to build better and more powerful characters, and I think this game plays into that a lot and will just sort of feed me what I and myself as well as other players require in diving deep into a character and figuring out how to make it more powerful. And there are so many different elements that come into play in the new game that I think this is going to open up a whole new world of possibilities. So that being said, will the game be perfect? I can't say yet, but I don't think it will be perfect. There are certain elements that I might touch on in another video, but it may not be the perfect game, but I think it, as far as a successor to the previous Diablo titles go, I think it's going to be more successful than Diablo 3 most likely, and just a great successor for the title in general. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and maybe learned a thing or two that you didn't know before that might prepare you better for when the game is actually released. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. We would really appreciate that very much. And hit that bell icon if you don't want to miss out on any of the new Diablo 4 content that will be coming out. So I hope to see you all in Sanctuary very soon and on the servers for Diablo 4. Cheers.